Hey everybody, we are live, and as you know, if you've been waiting for this, both Patrick Wood and Lee Brainerd are my guests. Thanks, guys, for taking time out of your schedule to join me. This is going to be an incredible program, an update. Things are developing. I've been watching and reading what you guys have been saying, and wow, I mean, just in the last 48 hours, the Dimona got hit with a missile in Israel. Iran seems to be kind of like, it's like they're just doing, it's like they're taking everybody out that they possibly can. And we have troops on the ground. We've got, or troops going to be on the ground. The Strait of Hormuz. Patrick, you wrote about IMAC. I found that absolutely fascinating, even with Jared Kushner and Lee, with the threat that Trump says, hey, we're going to drop the mother of all bombs, or whatever bomb he said he was going to drop in Iran. What's really going on? So anyways, guys, thank you for joining me. You have anything to share as we get ready?
You direct us here.
Okay.
At least me.
I will. Lee, I'm going to start with you, Lee. Trump says, by the way, you can welcome, you can say hi to everybody. Again, send your comments and your questions. Lee, Trump says he's going to drop this bomb. You got 48 hours. What do you think's going on?
Well, when I first heard that, I was just a little bit skeptical because it seemed like a really extreme measure considering how well things were working. They were on track with their military targets. You couldn't really rule it out because this is a frustrating situation for Trump when the American public wants to see results fast, and the military leadership knows that this is not a short-term fix. It's a long-term fix. So I was a little skeptical that we would actually do that, but I was nervous. Then you turn around within not even 48 hours later, and he says, okay, we got a 5-day window now, a 5-day reprieve, and he's talking about that he's actually having conversations with leadership in the Iranian government, and then the Iranian government comes back and says, no, we're not having conversations. Personally, I'm thinking that this is a lot of disinformation, misdirection, and Trump messing with the Iranians, pushing their buttons, seeing how they're going to react and respond. It was very interesting to see that their response was a threat to the desalination plants and energy plants all around the Arab nations in the region. So that's a big signal that this problem has to be fixed. You cannot let it continue.
Patrick, as you hear this news coming, what do you think? And I mean, I also think I know we're going to talk about the Gaza peace plan and Abraham Accords and Jared Kushner and all of that. But as I look at it, I can't imagine Trump wanting this to go long, but does he have a choice?
I don't think this is about war, politics at all. I think this is all about global trade. That was the point of my article recently. The title was IMAC, Trump's War with Iran is about global trade, period. This is my thesis going forward from this point. This has always been about the Strait of Hormuz in the first place. If they can't control that, the IMAC deal is off the table. There's too much already invested into this new global trade route, by the way. They can't let it go. And Gaza is smack dab in the middle of this as well. Gaza will be a beneficiary of the trade route that'll come right next door to it. And so if they can't settle this issue with the strait, and they will, I'm sure they will at this point. I don't know how it's going to play out, but it's almost guaranteed at this point in my mind that Trump will break the thing wide open. And like he said, to Iran, you keep doing this, we're going to pound you into dust. And so whatever that means, I don't know. But the Iranians, they'll feel the pain. That's all I can say. But I don't think there's never been about the students and that want freedom. It's never been about the oil necessarily. It's been about global trade routes. And if people find that preposterous, I would just remind you that almost every war in the last 500 years has been fought over some trade route somewhere in the world. And, I think this will be this won't be an exception, put it that way.
Follow the money.
Follow the money.
So what happens if the U.S. does not secure the Strait of Hormuz?
This is interesting to me because President Trump is acting like president to marshal our forces to to take the Strait of Hormuz. However, it's not for the benefit of the United States. This trade route doesn't include the United States at this point. It connects India to Europe. So yes, we will be a beneficiary, I'm sure, in some way. But this trade route it doesn't concern us directly in America. So what Trump is doing at this point to open up the trade route that benefits him and his interest in Gaza, for instance, and in the Mideast in a wider sense. And by the way, he's put properties all over the Mideast at this point, licensed his name to put on buildings and stuff like Trump this and Trump that. He's totally embedded in the Mideast. So if on one hand you say, well, is he operating as a private citizen over there to get this done, or on the behalf of the United States? This is a question. I can't answer it. But the fact that he would use U.S. troops and U.S. taxpayer money to open the Strait of Hormuz primarily for this trade corridor that will benefit his interest in Gaza, that's kind of off the charts, in my opinion. I can't answer it totally.
Well, this is one of the statements that you wrote in that article. And by the way, everybody, it's an incredible article. I know I referred to it already. Many of you have read it. Lee and I, Patrick, on his channel TV, we spent probably almost the entire program just going over your article and talking about the ramifications. Where is this really going? That's why I wanted to have you both on today. There's just so much here. But just one of the things you wrote, small paragraph, IMAC is the commercial payoff of a decade of deliberate geopolitical engineering that runs directly through Jared Kushner, the Abraham Accords, the war with Iran, and the technocratic reconstruction of Gaza connect the dots, and the picture is unmistakable. Lee, as you look at this and you just think about all the different things, as we look forward, I mean, as Patrick mentioned, it's never been about the Iranian people. I mean, we've thought about the Iranian people. I remember I probably had a conversation with you, Lee, probably on YouTube, said, these people in Iran are dying. You can see them. They're being slaughtered in the streets. And Trump said, hey, go and protest and I'll be there to save you. And then nothing happened for 4 weeks or 5 weeks, something like that. Mm-hmm. You're wondering what was really going on. And then all these other military weapons and equipment and troops were being moved over into that region. Now we see this. And then you look at the Strait of Hormuz and what Patrick wrote, things become very, very interesting to say the least. And with, and now with the hit on Dimona and the different missiles coming to Israel, we live in interesting days. But Lee, as you look at it, what's some things that you think we need to be aware of?
Well, the one thing I would point out is, though I completely agree with Patrick that money is really at the bottom of this. It's the IMAC, it's the Gaza program, but there are some benefits to America aside from Trump's personal benefits here. One of them is when you look at what's going on in Iran with there, and you can connect it with Venezuela, Ecuador, Colombia, Cuba, Greenland, Kazakhstan, places where America has either re-emphasized control directly or indirectly over oil industry, or we're trying to get control over oil industry, or we're getting control over rare earth minerals and other exotic metals and minerals that we need for high-tech industry. What we're doing here with Iran's part of this bigger picture, it's really an asymmetric war against the hegemony of Russia and China. Without ever firing a shot, we are actually putting them in a desperate situation where they're in danger of their economies of imploding. We're taking oil away from them. We're taking rare earth elements. We're taking trading partners away from them. And I think this is really a brilliant tactic. So really, in one fell swoop, we not only take care of a legit existential threat to America, although I think that their bark was way bigger than their bite, we take care of the whole financial thing that Patrick's talking about, and we take care of removing two of the big pieces trying to vie for domination of the New World Order. We're moving Russia and China out of the picture and leaving just Europe, America, the technocrats, Islam, and the Roman Catholic Church as the major players.
And the Roman Catholic Church. That's very interesting. So, as we look forward, then what does it look like for China? And also, I do want to throw this out there because Iran seems to be threatening anyone it can reach, threatening Europe. They seem to have this scorched earth thought process. Of course, we also know with their version of Islam is we need to start massive war in order for the 12th Imam to come.
Yes,
their Messiah. So are both of these in play right now? Do you think, either of you, Patrick, you can go first, either of these in play that Iran is looking at the scorched earth, the U.S. does want to take us down, or is it the 12th Imam, or is it both of those? What do you think? Then we'll turn over to China.
You know, I have to say these mullahs have been crazy, in my opinion, for 49 years at this point. They want to start a war, the mother of all wars, they used to call it, and that's what they're doing. At this point, they're backed into a corner. They have nowhere to run. They have their allies are not standing with them, like Russia and China. They're not really backing them up. And where do they have to go other than shoot missiles at everybody at this point, take everybody out if they can, and start World War III? That would suit them at this point. They think that the Mahdi, as he's called, he's going to appear on the scene and bring peace to the world. Well, good luck with that. That won't happen. We know that's not going to happen. But one thing, aside from Iran needs to be basically taken out as far as a troublemaker in the Mideast. Nobody likes him. The Saudis don't like him. The UAE doesn't like him. None of these countries like Iran at all because they're the ones that funded all of these troublemakers in the first place. Hamas, Hezbollah, etc. And so they have to go. I think that's what's in Trump's mind and other people around the world as well. Somehow they need to take these people out. However, having said that, look at what's going on in the Mideast in a more general sense with this trade route, who the beneficiaries will be, the UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Greece, and then into Europe. The financial shift in the world is taking place in the Mideast, the Gulf states. It's unmistakable at this point. The financial system of the world and the wealth of the world is coagulating around the Mideast. This has significant, I think, implications for end-time prophecy, because you see there will be this trade route, for instance, in Revelation 17:18, where all these goods, the fine goods of the world, are brought to Babylon, for instance, to trade. The ship messengers get rich off their trade, and that certainly probably will go throughout the Gulf states. But you see this shift of financial influence in the Mideast at this point. I think this is the bigger story than just Iran by itself. Let's put it that way. And if we look at that in Bible prophecy terms, what does it mean? I don't have an answer totally, but I see all of a sudden the concentration of wealth flowing into the Mideast at this point.
That's fascinating, because I was also thinking of more specifically Revelation chapter 18, and when Babylon is destroyed. By the way, everybody, please send in your questions. We would love to address them. So yeah, send them in right now. This is live. Lee, as you look at this, we look at Bible prophecy, and as Patrick said, listen, the world's wealth is going this direction. And then as we look at China, I believe the Bible indicates that China is not going to be a superpower in the last days. In fact, I think the Bible's pretty clear, if you interpret it correctly, what the Bible does say. China's not going to be this major superpower of 200 million soldiers involved in the last days battle. But with that, China being sidelined, we can look forwardly to the Ezekiel chapter 38 battle, when God is the one who saves Israel. That's not happening yet. You know, Lee, you and I have talked about that many times. It's not happening yet, everybody. But as Patrick said, how is this all going to work out? But you can definitely see the entire geopolitical alignments. I think, Lee, also with what Patrick has written about IMAC, and as we see China, we see money pouring into the Mideast. We think of Babylon. It's almost like you can't make this up, because the world's attention is going that way. The world's money is going that way.
Oh, absolutely. So in my mind, how I conceive things coming together is you obviously have the old footprint of the Roman Empire was Europe, in the Middle East, North Africa. And right now we're seeing that focus is coming together right now. It is really the center of focus for everything that's going on in the geopolitical realm, not just politically and militarily, but economically, as Patrick has been pointing out. So we know Europe is going to be tied into this. One of the big questions that remains is, to this point, we've seen America being very closely tied into this with finance, with money, with energy, with the military, with political clout. How long is this going to continue? Is this going to somehow get melded into this European Middle East melting pot? Or are they going to kind of nosedive and be taken over? Or are they going to be maybe a little bit more muscle that the European Union is going to be glad to infiltrate and take over and exploit that military muscle and that economic muscle? Well, time is going to tell. I find it fascinating that America is basically pieces of the fractured Roman Empire, the last three superpowers, Spain, France, and England. So some people would make an argument that America is really as part of the Roman Empire. We could be part of it in the last days. It remains to be seen if this comes to pass or not. But I do find it fascinating how much might America is pushing into this picture. Military might, economic might. You've got the technocrats getting involved in the Middle East. You've got American banking getting involved in the Middle East. You've got American petroleum deeply involved in the Middle East. Basically, the entire deep state from Europe and America has their fingers in the Middle East pie one way or other.
That's absolutely fascinating. Patrick, I'm going to ask you about Jared Kushner in a minute, and I'll have Lee go there also, because you mentioned this. IMAC is real. It is being built. It will reshape world trade. The route to documented investors are named. The infrastructure, this is fascinating, is under construction. The geopolitical sequence, Abraham Accords, Iran war, Hormuz crisis, Gaza reconstruction, is not a series of unrelated events. It is a sequence strategy with commercial payoff built into its design from the beginning. And Jared Kushner designed the diplomatic preconditions. He positioned himself financially with the Gulf sovereigns who are funding the infrastructure. Trump, he's now overseeing the governance architecture, and Trump is providing the military and political cover. The Board of Peace is the administrative instrument. IMEC is the prize. I've got to come back to that because that is absolutely loaded. But and Lee knows this too. We've gone back and forth. I'm convinced that Trump has wanted the Abraham Accords since he was in office first time.
Yep.
Before he came in, when we knew he was reelected, one of the first things he would do is start pushing the Abraham Accords. And I believe that's what he wants to get to. I think he wants to be known as this King of Peace. And no, everybody, I did not just say he's Antichrist. So don't put those words in my mouth. But I do believe if his ego's there. He wants to be the guy who brings peace. He wants to rebuild Gaza. But he's made it very clear Jared Kushner is he's the brains behind all of this, all of it. From what you said, Pookie, we'll get to your question in a minute about what's coming with 1/3 of the Jews. But right now, so hold on a minute, Pookie, I promise we'll get there. Patrick, as you look at this, Jared Kushner, all of the peace deals, Trump, as this thing works out, Jared Kushner's hands are on everything.
How many presidents have we had in history, going back to 1955, for instance, who have tried politically to bring peace to Israel? Everybody had some initiative. Clinton, Reagan, Bush, all of them had some type of involvement, and they wanted to be the one who brought peace to Israel through some political settlement. Am I right or not?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
okay.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, this was turned on its head when Kushner got involved and said, hey, let's try something different. Let's try to bring the region together based on economic interests, not political interests. Bingo. I mean, this was a sea change at that point. So nobody ever tried this before. But it obviously has been successful at this point because he wrapped all these other countries that basically they formerly hated Israel into partnerships with Israel and with things like the Peace Board, et cetera. And this is the answer that every president has tried to achieve with politics that never worked. Now it's working economically. Same end and goal to wrap a safety net, if you will, around Israel. We know that will not last, however.
Right.
You can just see this whole thing is going to blow up at some point.
Literally.
Not yet, but at some point in the future, it's going to blow, and all of a sudden Israel will find itself surrounded by all of its enemies again. But right now, this whole business of the trade route going from India to Europe, this is Kushner's answer to unifying the Mideast, and he's doing a good job of it. That's all I can say. I don't like it, but I'm just saying he's doing a masterful job. And so you see Kushner also involved with the Board of Peace as well as with IMAC.
Yes.
What kind of dots do you have to connect at this point to see the picture? This is purely an economic, financial play on their part, the family, the Trump family. Kushner is one of them. But you also see that it's concentrated all the wealth in the Mideast in a very small packet, if you will, and it's going to grow exponentially at this point until you can see it morphing into Revelation 18 at the end of the trail, where there's untold wealth in the Mideast. And this is exciting to me. On one hand, we haven't seen this before, this approach to bring peace to Israel, but it's also bringing the accumulation of all this wealth into the Mideast, and with AI as well. AI has to run all these conduits, and I have to say, I have to reemphasize. This trade route, this is not just a simple, oh, our ships are going to go here. This is a corridor. A corridor implies multiple modes of whatever, transmitting stuff. There's going to be fiber optic cables. There's going to be pipelines carrying hydrogen, oil, natural gas, whatever, to Europe. And the fiber optic cables, of course, will be running AI data centers all over the place. Why do the Saudis need $3 billion in new AI data centers building out of the sand? Well, they don't need it right now, but they see that in the future, they see there's a need to have that in place when this new global architecture of control, governance, not government, governance, they'll be needed at that point. And all the data that they can generate at that point will need fiber optic cables to transmit to the whole world. Well, okay, that's just all I'm saying. This sets the stage, I think, for a very significant part of Bible prophecy.
It was absolutely fascinating. Lee, what do you say to this?
Well, two comments I'd like to add. First of all, it's interesting that the military is being used once again to take advantage of this situation and forward the economic opportunity. The economic opportunity in and of itself was not going to be sufficient as long as you had the current Iranian regime in control of the Strait of Hormuz. So, we used the cover story, a plausible cover story, deniable plausibility of that it's really just a military existential threat that we're facing, like Iran could launch nukes at us or Europe. I wouldn't say it's entirely far-fetched, but I'm not sure that that it was as realistic as some of us had feared. But it's a plausible story. It's a cover. So now we go in on that basis, and we're able to take care of business, or Trump is able to take care of business to accomplish his economic goals. Now, what's also interesting about this, when this all comes together and you've got the whole Gaza initiative, you've got the IMAC initiative, and they're rolling full steam, it won't make BRICS or the Silk Road initiatives completely irrelevant, but it will prevent them from being a huge dominating force in the world. IMAC is gonna be the big channel for industrial goods to flow, for information goods to flow, for energy goods to flow, for farming like fertilizer. The Strait of Hormuz is a massive fertilizer hub. So when all this is coming through the influence of Europe, America, the Middle East in these Abrahamic Accords with IMAC and all this together, China is going to be greatly undercut. BRICS is going to be undercut.
I agree totally. I've said this, I think, multiple times in the recent days. China is going to find itself odd man out in the end. There's probably lots of reasons for that, but all the money that they put into the Belt and Road Initiative at this point, billions and billions and billions of dollars around the world, it's already under address right now, under address, and with this facing them at this point, they'll still have some things to do, like goods have to be moved out of Africa, South America, but those are minor facilities at this point. Even Panama Canal, that's kind of a minor facility compared to this. Wow. This could blow everything out of the water. It's also going to isolate Russia as well, because if Russia, if they could figure out a way to get all of the natural gas and oil into Europe without having to go to Russia, where's their market at this point? Well, then they won't have one. So they're going to be under duress. This is kind of a masterful plan that whoever is the architect, whether it's Trump or Kushner or Eric or Don Jr., it doesn't matter who architected this point, is a masterful plan to shake up the world order, but good.
Yes.
Many leaders around the world are talking about this. The new world order, the new world order, is altogether different than what the old world order looked like. And we need to look forward with new tools, new insights, and forget what was behind and look at what's happening, what's being built right now as we speak. And this is part of it with this IMAC quarter.
Lee, I'm going to throw this in there because it's just so, it's almost, I mean, I don't quite have the right words to describe this, how fast things are happening and changing and developing. If we project, continue with Bible prophecy also, there's certain dynamics in Ezekiel 38 that we know are going to happen. An invasion comes against Israel from the north, and we also know Sudan and Libya will be involved too, which is another element, interestingly. Yeah. But they're going to come, and we know that there is a massive economic benefit that's going to come from this invasion if they can take over Israel, right? We know that's part of it because we know it's a huge part of it. This evil plan comes into your mind. So we see money that is going to flow in and through Israel, tied in with whatever, whoever's in agreement with Abraham Accords. You got to wonder, is that it when you look at Ezekiel 38? Plus, we know Haifa is going to be a major port, already is in Israel, and everything that Kushner is talking about, Gaza, rebuilding Gaza, Gaza becomes this major port, and other dynamics. But then I'm going to throw something else in there too. Have you comment, and I promise we'll get to your questions in a minute. But I'm going to throw this in there too. With Judea and Samaria, Hezbollah is still a problem. Israel has to be dwelling in peace and safety. We've talked about that many times. They are not. They haven't been since days of Solomon. They need to get there. Trump is now putting troops on the ground to deal with the Strait of Hormuz and whatever other thing we're going to be told, right? Is it realistically to think that this is already setting a precedent for troops on the ground in Judea and Samaria to keep that peace? Because we know there's huge problems inside the land of Israel with the terrorists there. I mean, I look at this and go, it looks like everything in my mind is marching forward together to bring about the fulfillment of these things. Granted, I don't want to speculate too much, but I mean, I look at this and go, is this part of it, including troops on the ground?
Well, if there were going to be foreign troops on the ground in the area of Israel, I would suspect America already has plans to put at least 5,000 American soldiers in Gaza. I would not be surprised if ultimately any peace resolution with Lebanon involves American or European or Saudi Arabian or some sort of mix of troops in Lebanon without actually having any significant American boots in Israel proper. That would be my first guess. Doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to happen, but that's my guess. The other thing I would want to point out about this is I think these things are definitely heading towards Israel gaining this, what I call a faux peace, a superficial peace, where she's going to drop her guard, and that's going to lead to the Gog and Magog situation. What's interesting about how this is happening is right now, America and Israel are very tight. Somehow between now, with these victorious work together, which is bringing peace to the region and bringing peace to Israel, there's going to be a separation of America and Israel, because when Gog and Magog happens, America's standing on the sidelines. We're not going to come to her aid. And I think there's going to be a couple of things that play into this. First of all, I think that the growing anti-Semitism that we see in American conservative political circles and American conservative religious circles is going to continue like a forest fire until it basically consumes everybody who's not as solid as the Rock of Gibraltar in dispensationalism. The other thing I think that we're going to see is with this unity here in the Middle East, with Europe and America and the Sunni Arab nations coming together in trade unions of various kinds and military cooperation, this is going to ultimately leave Israel on the sidelines. And when these nations tell America, you have to choose between us and our programs or Israel, I think America will step back.
What do you think, Patrick?
I think that I kind of have been thinking about this in those terms. The United States needs to be out of the prophetic picture at some point.
Yes.
China probably as well. Russia is in the picture, I think, pretty easily. Europe is in the picture as well, but the United States is not. And the way we're going right now, our influence in the world is waning. And what Trump is doing on his own behalf in the Middle East right now, that's not on behalf of America. In other words, America has lost its influence in the Mideast to project itself into the Mideast. And at this point, Congress can debate it all they want. But Trump has already established the Board of Peace on his own initiative, and it has nothing to do with Congress at all. So they can't stop him, whatever he's going to do at this point. So you see the influence of the United States will wane more and more, I think, in the Middle East. And we see all the technocratic, arch technocrats, I call them, in the United States. They seem to be kind of building a path into the Middle East where all the money is, where they can build their data centers. They'll survive for sure as a group. But will the United States continue to be an influence in the Middle East? Not as much. China they're waning as well for other reasons. But who's left at that point? Well, the Mideast itself is taking on a life of its own. That's kind of the point here, I think.
Yeah, well,
yes, it's taken on.
Here's something else to throw out. This comes from one of the people in the comments. And I Need Jesus said, between Sharia financing taking over, Islamic infiltration of Western nations, and beheadings in Revelation, how is Islam not the one world religion? I mean, I have my various reasons, Lee. But I'll let you go, Lee, than you if you want, Patrick. But I look at this and go, what we are also watching right now is the Gulf states, for example, are saying, hey, wait a minute, we're not like them. A lot of it has, I mean, for all various reasons. Nevertheless, we do know what the Quran says. But Lee, on that question alone, with this Islam taking over the new world religion of, I'm guessing what they are talking about is the leader of the false prophet and so forth. What do you think?
Well, for me, that Islam is going to be the Antichrist religion taking over the world it's completely impossible. I would just alone on 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, where we read that the Antichrist is opposed to all, not most, all that is called God or reverenced. So that alone takes Islam out of the picture. Because if the Antichrist is opposed to all that is called God, he is opposed to Allah just as much as he's opposed to Jehovah in heaven. So that will not leave it in the picture. The other thing, there's a few other things about it that makes it really hard to imagine. How in the world is anybody in the Islamic world that's been, I mean, we look how radical and fanatical they are right now. How are you going to get a million radical, fanatical Islamicists to bow to a man and worship him as God? You cannot do that. They will choose death over that. It makes no sense at all. I think that, you get a superficial relationship. It's like, oh, we see beheading here, we see beheading here. Oh, therefore they're the same.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's so often what happens. What people will do, they when they know a little bit of Bible prophecy, they'll look at the news and go, okay, this means that. Therefore, it's like the 200 million soldiers out of China. Oh, well, they can, so therefore, that fits. Well, that's not the right fit. Patrick, you have anything you want to add?
Probably not.
Okay.
I'll leave it there. We probably have some questions, maybe some from some.
We do. You're not John Haller. John would have said something. Hi, John. How are you doing? So, okay, Pookie, this asks this. When the 1/3 is saved, or I'm guessing he's talking about Zechariah chapter 14, second half of the tribulation period, the Jews. That's what I'm guessing he is referring to. When the 1/3 is saved, will they be able to read the New Testament and be astounded of what they missed? What do you think, Lee?
Well, personally, I think when the 1/3 of the Jews that are getting saved during the tribulation, they're going to have the same experience that the apostles did during the Gospels, in that they're going to get the gospel preached to them directly out of the Old Testament. After their eyes are opened, they're going to realize that the New Testament is also valid. And can you imagine these Jews going to the Gospels, going to the book of Hebrews, going to the Pauline epistles, going to the book of Revelation, having all that light added on top of the blessings of seeing the Messiah in the Old Testament scriptures? This is like the Emmaus Road all over again.
Yeah,
I agree.
I see it like the Emmaus Road, the Saul before he became Paul, well taught in what the Old Testament prophets said, the law said, and all of a sudden when the spiritual blinders are taken off, it all makes sense while in the fullness of the book is written of him. Patrick, you have any thoughts on that?
I agree. Yeah, that they're going to be so amazed. The scales are going to fall off their eyes all at once, and they'll see everything for what it is, and it's going to be absolutely amazing to them. Totally.
Yeah. Interestingly, this question comes from Shamrock, who's asking about replacement theology. How's everyone addressing this wave of replacement theology? I'll start with this, Lee. I deal with it a lot. I talked about Israel a lot. In fact, I can't quite reach my book. It's out of the way. But I mean, it's like Israel is central to understanding how things are going to play out. If you get Israel wrong, you're going to get eschatology wrong. You're even going to get the days that we live in wrong. Thank you. This book, I'll just say it here, Israel's place in God's eternal plan. And it's like when we understand the Bible, we go, wow, there are not just dozens, there are hundreds upon hundreds of scriptures that make reference to Jerusalem, the Jews, the last days, coming back into the land, central to Jesus calling out and to the Jews calling out for Jesus to come and save them at the end of the tribulation period, which also it has to do with the 1/3 that Pookie asked about. Believe it's like this is nonstop dealing with this because we are constantly confronted with it, which leads me to believe the days that we live in are rapidly approaching what the Bible describes as those last days or that day of the tribulation. What do you think, Lee, on this whole subject of replacement theology? It's been here since the beginning, but it just seems to be exploding right now.
Well, in the last few decades, replacement theology has morphed from, I don't want to call it a legitimate theology because it's never been a legitimate theology, but it's morphed from a theology that was kind of innocuous. We just disagreed with them. We could get along in missions. We could get along in evangelism, and we did. But in the last few decades, this has morphed from an innocuous anti-Semitism that's a doctrinal anti-Semitism into an actual rabid, heart-filled with venom hatred for Israel, for the Jews, for Zionism. This is going to spread throughout the entire world until the whole world is going to hate Israel. Israel will be a cup of trembling for every nation on the planet until every man on the street across the globe that isn't born again is going to hate Israel. This is really part of the crucible that God is forming for the nation of Israel. There will be no human crutch to lean on. There'll be no nation to lean on. There'll be no organization to lean on. There'll be no evangelicals to lean on. There's nobody to lean on except God.
Yeah.
That's what they need.
Yeah. Patrick, any thoughts?
Yeah. I can't. I see this new wave of anti-Semitism coming out of the church, especially after Charlie Kirk was murdered last year. And there's been a swing away from evangelical, traditional evangelical, dispensationalism for sure. And people are adopting this new thought now that, well, we have to make the world right to have Christ come back. And their eschatology has changed as a result of that. They're not expecting Christ to come now. They're looking at some time in the future, maybe after the tribulation or something, where Christ will but that's not going to be because they cleaned up the world. This is a heartbeat of dominionism, NAR theology, etc. So this whole business of anti-Semitism is embedded in this, and you can almost see how America is moving away from relevance in the end times. If we continue down this path of anti-Semitism, God will he doesn't have to wipe us out necessarily, but you can see how we will be irrelevant in end times affairs. There, any other country, the same thing, but it seems, especially in our country, where the root of the gospel has made incredible strides over the decades. All of a sudden, it's just thrown to the wind. Boom. And I think it's been especially evident since the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. It's very strange. Just at a time, it's like after October 7, all of a sudden people start turning against Israel. That people I used to work with, do podcasts with, by October 8th, I found out they hated Israel. That started coming out after Charlie Kirk. It just went into hyperspeed. I can't, it's you look at it, you go, to me, it's just another sign, the significant increase of hate, everything that is Jewish or related to the nation of Israel. In fact, Lee, it doesn't even make any sense. When you look at it, you listen to the arguments, and they claim to be basing things on the Bible. They can't be basing things on the Bible, or they have to take the Bible out of context. And when I look at this, in fact, somebody asked me when we were in Vegas just over this weekend for the conference about that. I said, the only way I can describe it, because it makes no sense. There's no biblical logic to it, except when you start thinking that there's some form of delusion that has been cast among people. I mean, when you look at it, you're thinking, well, my goodness, when you look at dominionism or other forms of postmillennial teaching or amillennial teaching, they all have to come to a place, even for people that might be involved in it now that currently still support Israel for whatever reason they do. If you hold to that doctrinal position, Lee, don't you have to come to a place where you will turn on Israel? Because I look at it and go, people are going to go, wait, we will not have world peace because Israel is always a problem. They're always starting this, they're always involved in that. So eventually, in order to have world peace and for the Messiah to come, because we have to fix the world, that's the logic of that doctrine. We've got to fix it before Jesus comes back. Even they will turn against Israel. I don't think we are too far off as the group of people who support Israel is just going to continue to get smaller and smaller.
Yeah, I'd like to make two comments, one on the handling of Scripture and one on that pressure that's going to lead to anti-Semitism dominating the world. On the Scriptures, I find it interesting that it is basically 2 or 3 proof texts that are misunderstood that are used as a magic key to unlock hundreds of passages and give you the secret understanding that you won't get if you take them literally. That is the whole key to the whole thing. If you are going to be a historical, grammatical, hermeneutic person, you're going to take everything literal, childlike faith, it's impossible to be replacement theology. But if you're the kind that can set aside 99% of the information in the Bible on the basis of 1%, that you have a magic key for it, then you will be able to be convinced. So your safety net, folks, is simply trusting everything in the Bible at face value. When it comes to the whole crew coming together at the end, I think the peer pressure is going to get so heavy with the hatred for Israel that if you don't have your feet solidly planted on the Word of God, taken at face value, standing alone like Noah, and you will wilt under the peer pressure.
I wholeheartedly agree. This is a question. I know we only have a few more minutes left, so probably just this and one other question. But Hannah B says, it's probably a question for you, Patrick. You can chime in here too, Lee. Are the mega projects in Saudi Arabia of any importance or not, particularly the cube in Riyadh?
Oh, absolutely. These people have been master builders forever. They're obsessed with building big things, and they haven't been successful all the time. But they aspire to build big things for sure. This is probably a sentiment we'll see when the rebuilding of Babylon takes place. They're going to all flock and want to get their hands on a crane or something to build a new skyscraper somewhere around Babylon. But this is what they got going on with this cube nonsense, with the NEOM, this kind of fallen by the wayside. It is still there, but they're not pursuing and like they did at the first. They have a lot of money and they want to throw it into these technocratic projects, and we'll see. This is the opulence that we see in the Middle East, and just when you pair that with, for instance, with President Trump's desire to build great buildings and Trump Towers and all that kind of stuff, you can see all the egos they're all centered around building big things. Mm-hmm. We'll see more of this in the future.
Indeed. I think of Herod, Herod the Great, builder of big and great things. Lee, here's a quick one for you. Ryan Black, because I know you've dealt with this before. Could MBS be the AC, and how could he be referred to as the Assyrian?
MBS.
Mohammed bin Salman.
Okay. Right. The prince. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Prince, yes, him, that guy. Crown Prince Saudi Arabia.
So, and could he be the Antichrist?
Because of the passage in Old Testament, the reference to he will be the Assyrian.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Well, I'm more inclined to take the reference to the Assyrian if it's a future prophecy, which is very possible. I'm more inclined to take it to whoever's the head of Syria, that nation is going to be leading the Psalm 83 coalition, whether that immediately precedes or happens at the same time as Ezekiel 38 and 39. I think that's the big dog in Syria and not Saudi Arabia.
Okay, simple enough. All right, final question on fuel worldwide, oil, things that we're hearing different reports. Actually, two questions. And the whole thing with TSA and now ICE. So both of those, Patrick, first of all, fuel, where do you see this going as things are developing? And then I'll ask you about what do you see with ICE getting involved in the airport situation?
Energy is one of the most important, if not the most important element of economic development. You have to have it. If you don't have it, you don't develop anything. Nothing works, nothing runs, people aren't served. So there's been a concerted effort to control energy, at least since 1973, when they had all the lines running around the blocks back then to get gas. Control over energy has been epic, in my opinion. It'll continue to be epic in the future too. It's not that there is not plenty of energy in the world, but it's being controlled by the global elite to make sure we don't get our hands on it here, as consumers.
Lee, what do you, on energy?
Well, I think my first thought I'm thinking about is people have been really worried. I mean, I saw people saying $300 oil, and the more moderate people are saying $200 oil. Well, you can't really say it's impossible that oil is going to go blasting past $200. But in my mind, for this whole situation, I was picturing $150 would be probably the highest price that we'd reasonably expect oil to go to if this thing drags on and Trump doesn't gain control of the Strait of Hormuz. I do find it interesting how much of the last few weeks oil has just been trading in a sideways band. I think the oil traders on the big players are banking on Trump actually gaining control of the Strait of Hormuz.
I agree with that. Yeah. Totally.
Hey, Patrick, what do you think? Airports is bringing ICE in to deal with the TSA problem a good idea, a bad idea? What do you think?
I gotta beg off it. I'm flying in 2 weeks, and I don't want to even think about it. I don't want to be face to face with an ICE agent. Honestly, I don't want to be face to face with the TSA either. But I don't like any of it at this point. And if Trump does that and displaces a lot of people at the TSA, we'll have to live with it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Didn't Reagan do something like the air traffic controllers? I remember when I was quite young, my friend's dad, he was an air traffic controller, but he did not walk off the job. He kept his, but I mean, Reagan did something back then. Lee, what do you think with the idea of ICE coming in to that position? And I'm flying out on Thursday. I'm supposed to be in Indiana this Thursday. And so are you, Lee. We're both supposed to be there.
Yeah, we'll be driving.
I'm flying.
Smart man.
Trump is a man who's not afraid to try unusual maneuvers to fix difficult problems. He thinks outside the box. I think he's thinking outside the box here. I don't know whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, but it's definitely political pressure on the Democrats, the same kind of pressure that was put on the Democrats when Musk volunteered to pay the salaries of the TSA agents that weren't getting paid by the Department of Homeland Security. So no matter how you frame it, no matter how you solve this problem, I think the Democrats are shooting themselves in the foot.
Well, listen, thank you guys. It was wonderful having both of you. I know it was short notice too, but I just know there's a lot of things. There's so many moving parts as we move forward, but it was really great. Patrick, how can people connect with you?
Technocracy.news. That's the easy way. All of my books are on Amazon as well. There's audiobooks and Kindle versions as well on Amazon. If you want to get a signed copy, go to technocracy.news and I'll send one out to you right away.
That's cool. And you can see his link to Patrick in the description too. Lee, same thing with you. Your link is in the description. But how can everybody contact you? Plus, you have your books out too.
Yes, soothkeep.info is my website. You can find me Soothkeep on YouTube and social media. My books are available on Amazon.com.
Great. Thank you guys so much. It was really just a great time. I could have spent about 5 more hours with both of you, but we can't because we have lives to live. And we're married. We don't want to get in trouble.
Coffee together in Indiana. We'll drink a coffee together in Indiana.
We will. Then we'll call Patrick.
Yeah.
All right. God bless you guys. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. See you soon.